Goldcast Studios. I'm Lindsay McGuire, Associate Director of Content and Campaigns at Goldcast. Welcome to the first episode of Event Marketers Live of 2024. We're so happy you're here. We hope you're having a great start to your year. As you kick off your plans for 2024, we'd love to hear where you're investing your time in this year. Digital events, trade shows, field events, all of the above? Let us know in the chat. The Event Marketers Club has been a buzz so far this year. Many of our members are discussing creative and cost-effective ways to generate new leads and deliver an impactful brand experience at industry conferences without having to break the bank with traditional booth sponsorships. So to answer this very question, we have added a few new channels we think that you might find useful. First off, check out My Event, where you can showcase your events with photos and a recap of what worked and what didn't. Next up is sponsorships. Hear what your peers are doing and how they're thinking outside the box when it comes to on-site activations at major industry conferences. Last and not least, maybe my favorite, is content repurposing. Allow your event to live well on beyond the end date. Find creative tactics and tools to repurpose your event content. And for our marketing friends who are currently in search for their next job opportunity, be sure to check out our job board. Members are actively posting new openings every day. If you're not already part of our Event Marketers Club community, I encourage you to join so you can network with local and global event professionals like yourself. Whether your focus is on trade shows, field marketing, or virtual events, our members have the experience and advice for any event format, and they are ready to share their expertise with you. So check out the resources tab over on the right to learn more and join the community today. Now it's almost time to get started, so let us know you're here by dropping a message in the chat. Where are you tuning in from? What are you most looking forward to in 2024? And just a heads up, if you are a regular at Event Marketers Live, you won't be seeing me in the opening segment for the next few episodes because I'm actually about to go on maternity leave and have a little baby girl. So I'll be excited to see you all again back in a few months, but don't worry, we'll have some other Goldcasters filling the newsroom seat for me while I'm out. And also don't forget, during today's episode, we're going to be giving away some amazing gifts. So check out the chat right now to learn more about how you can win. But now over to you, Belinda, for a fun B2B conversation that is sure to be pure gold. Bye, all.
Hello, welcome everybody, and thank you so much, Lindsay, and huge congrats to you again on the latest addition to the family. We can't wait to meet your new baby girl. Best of luck to you and your family, and we'll miss you, but we can't wait to see you again in a few months. With that, thank you to everybody else, and welcome to our first episode of Event Marketers Live of 2024. So I hope everyone is having an amazing start to their new year. I am super excited to be back as your host and really excited to be bringing you some amazing event marketers throughout the year. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Thank you for being here. I am your host. My name is Belinda Joseph, and I am the head of events and community here at Goldcast. Now, before we jump in and get to our amazing speakers, I do want to call out a few things. As Lindsay mentioned, we are going to be having some awesome prize giveaways today. So a few ways for you guys to be able to win. We are giving away some Amazon gift cards. The first one being in the amount of $50. So how can you get yourself a $50 gift card? Well, all you have to do, if you're feeling brave, is actually, you'll see a button here on the bottom of your screen that says raise hand. So if you have a question at any time today during our discussion for our speakers, you guys can actually click that raise hand button and we will bring you up on stage to ask a question live. So again, if you're feeling brave and you want to come up on stage and you have a question for one of our experts, please do so. And that will make you eligible for a chance to win that $50 gift card. Now, in case you are not and you are a little shy, that's okay. There are a couple of other opportunities to get a gift card. We are also giving away a $20 Amazon gift card just for you for participating and being here today. So I see a lot of you guys are already in the chat. We love that. We always love to hear from you. So please continue to chat amongst yourselves. Let us know if anything's resonating with you. Share your own stories. But by doing that, submitting a comment in the chat, submitting a question in the Q&A tab, or answering one of our poll questions. That will all give you a chance to be entered into our raffle for the $20 gift card. So again, stay tuned. Jillian's posting some updates on that there. And we look forward to having you guys participate and being engaged in this conversation. And so with that, I am super excited to introduce our panelists for today. We have some really amazing event marketers on the stage. We have Tonya Hawes, who's from Salesforce, and Georgianne Parker from FullStory. Ladies, please come join me up on stage. Hello, hello.
Hello.
How are you guys?
Very good. Thanks for having us join today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, of course, we're going to want to know a little bit more about you. So ladies, please introduce yourselves. Georgie, I'm going to start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sounds good. So first of all, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. My name is Georgie, or Georgianne is fine too. I've spent the bulk of my career in events and field marketing. Dabbled a little bit in marketing operations and digital a bit here and there, but events is truly what has my heart. Currently, I lead the events and field marketing team at FullStory, and I am responsible for overseeing our global event strategy and guiding a team that produces over 100 events a year. But most of all, my most important goal is continuing to lead my team as a top pipeline driving channel for FullStory.
Amazing. And I know we're going to get into that shortly, so can't wait to hear a little bit more about what you and your team are working on. All right. Well, welcome, Georgie. Thank you again for being here. Tonya, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I am a senior manager of events and hospitality at Salesforce in the Real Estate and Workplace Services division. I have been in the events industry for more than 20 years and really came into events accidentally. And then it just became my niche field. And of course, I've held various marketing roles in field marketing, customer events, user conferences, you name it, I've done it. In my current role, I have a team of 11 event leads. We manage a number of events within our San Francisco offices. And of course, we interact with all different levels of the company and do some amazing events, including Dreamforce on campus. I've been with Salesforce for about 5.5 years and definitely love working there because it definitely gives me a lot of growth, and look forward to today's session. So thank you.
Amazing. Yeah. I feel like a lot of us kind of accidentally fall into the events world, right? That was definitely my story as well. Amazing. Well, I'm really excited to have you both here. So much experience, so much knowledge, and I know our viewers are going to get a lot out of this conversation. So with that said, why don't we get right into our first segment, which is Action Hot Takes. So, all right. So for this segment, we're all about how to make our job a little bit more efficient and more productive. And so we're always looking for some great tips on how we can go about, getting through our day-to-day jobs. So Georgie, I'm actually going to kick it over to you first, because I know you have a really awesome productivity hack around how you keep yourself up to date on what's going on in the world and in our industry. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I was chatting with some of my events friends the other day about how busy end of year is for us as we're ramping up and planning for the following year, and what I like to do to try to make it just a little bit less overwhelming. So in my experience, every events role I've ever had, there's always going to be a lot of evaluating new opportunities, looking at new vendors, seeing what new trends are happening. And that's just part of the events world. So rather than trying to cram a lot of that into my end of year planning, I like to set Google search alerts on topics to stay alert on. I have alerts on audience alerts, on key topics, on events that I like to follow, so that anytime a new event may pop up, I am quick to evaluate it, see it, tuck it in my folder to look at a little bit more. But I also like to use these to keep an eye out for surprise speaking opportunities, like a request for a speaker or even a FullStory and that got asked to speak at a product event, so that I can become involved and see what we can do to help make that a demand driving initiative. I use it a little bit too, sneakily, to track what other companies in our space are doing, or even like top customers that we're hoping to see at different events. I typically like to skim these daily during my coffee time in the morning, relax, get into the groove of the day, take my dogs out real quick, and just read through whatever Google sent me to read that day.
I absolutely love that. And I know we were talking about that backstage. I am going to steal that because it's great. I mean, it's you can get really overwhelmed with all the information that's out there, right? And so, and we're busy, our days are busy. So I love that you've been able to find a way to just incorporate that into your morning routine, and you can really focus on the exact topics or events or things that you're interested in. So that's amazing. I love that. Now, let's kind of now jump into your event marketing hot take, right? You're doing some really awesome things. And I know we've talked about how you guys are kind of redirecting your focus a bit on the types of events that you're doing that are going to help you kind of drive some more pipeline. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So my hot take is bigger isn't necessarily always better. I used to be the person that was all about the huge conference, the big trade show, more. What else can we do? But lately, I have been trading more of those big, costly, huge lift events for more intimate one-on-one connection opportunities, events that give me the opportunity to personalize touches for everyone there. I think those big events still have a place in my plan, but most of the time I would end up taking a 10-person perfect ICP match event over a big event with a broad audience where you're competing to stand out. Not only does this give me more bandwidth to create those connection points and time to get the right people talking to the right people at the event, but there are some bonus things as well. We typically see higher registration to attendance rates there, more engagement, and then these events tend to be a little bit more exclusive, and they create that vibe. You don't want to miss out on it. This is something that isn't run all the time. It's a one and done kind of thing, and it tends to attract that more senior audience to collaborate at them.
I am all for some FOMO, so it definitely works. But no, I think your approach is something that we're hearing a lot. I think it's very common right now. A lot of organizations are kind of taking that approach, and also the benefit there is you have more control, right? You have more control when you're hosting your events. You know that you can actually have control over the content you're presenting as well as who you're getting into the room, and it makes a lot of sense. And so I'm glad to hear that these are kind of working out for you guys. Now, Tonya, you're kind of doing something a little bit similar, but before we jump into what you're doing, why don't you go ahead and share your personal productivity hacks? I think you have something around budgets and templates, which is really useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, events people always need to be organized, and I really hate to reinvent the wheel every time I need something or do something. So I do try and create templates for everything, whether it be how I run a team meeting or one-on-ones or whatever. But my number one hack that I learned over many years is creating a really good budget template. And whether you're really into the details and you have a budget for that event, or you have to have a view of all your events. When I do it for all my events, it's literally putting all of the events that I'm going to do, and each bucket at the top has a category, whether it be signage, booth sponsorship, whatever it is, and tracking all of those costs. But really, you're putting in everything as an estimate. And then as you move through the event, right at the end of the event, you are tracking the real-time costs. And then you code it green or whatever color you like. And that way you use it as your basis for the next year. Because in some cases, if you're having to reduce your budget, you have the ability to look at those fixed costs versus discretionary costs and really kind of reduce those things, but also do it in a way that kind of actually makes sense. And then, of course, at the end of the day, if there's times where you actually have to cut things that are further down in the year that you haven't committed to, you can also remove as well. But to be able to clone that year over year and literally just update a few fields or create the formulas in there, it should probably take you less than an hour. But it also gives you the ability to have, give your leaders visibility and also just save time, because budget cycles are usually short, and sometimes they want your budget in 2-3 days and you wish you had known more time. But this is a good hack to just be able to rinse and repeat and really updating it in 30 minutes or less. So yeah.
Yes, it's all about efficiency. So for sure. I love that. And I think we all probably can relate to that as event marketers. I mean, I definitely have my template as well that I use on a regular basis.
Oh yeah. And you just tweak it as you go along. Sometimes you add some new things, or you realize I need a bigger contingency. And then if you create a formula, then it just kind of does it automatically.
For you. Yeah. That's amazing. Now, Tonya, tell us a bit about what you're doing, because I know you're also doing a lot of, personalized events. You work a lot with your sales team, so a lot of the events that you're producing are really to support their efforts.
Yeah, so obviously I have a very unique role at Salesforce because we deal with all different levels. We deal with a lot of sales and customer meetings, but one of the things it just in my career overall is being much more diligent about focusing on revenue generating programs, because ultimately every company is about the sales as we see it today, and the importance of knowing the customer, knowing your audience, knowing the sales territory really well, and really working to hone those events for that sales rep in those areas, creating the right event that's tailored. So again, not one size fits all. A lot of times we do road shows, but it doesn't always work in every territory. It doesn't also work with every type of industry, public sector versus technology versus financial services, et cetera. And then, of course, when you're sending your teams of people onto those shows, making sure they are the right fit for that, and they are engaged with those customers, because that is the bread and butter of our industry, is to make sales, but also making sure that if you're at a certain show, you have the right salespeople. So if it's financial services, those people that are strong in that, delivering on that, your demos are around that. So a lot of it's around, the customer experience and how to make that a great situation for them.
Yeah. I'm definitely, I always say a lot, or we hear a lot, right? Like, it's not all one size fits all, right? You really do need to understand, who you're going after, not only just the account, like you said, to your point, to the region, and what's going to be applicable to them, right? You can't just create the same event, the same content for every person, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to really, have that relationship with sales, that you better understand, what their accounts are looking for and what's going to be the best event to put on for them. So
absolutely. Thank you.
Now, there was a question. I don't know if either of you can answer this. So I'm going to put it out there just for our viewers out here, just in general, if anybody has any tips on this. So I think back to the templates, right? A question's being asked by Bay, like, does anyone have tips for creating templates using AI? So I don't know if Georgie or Tonya, if you have personally used AI to help you with any of your templates.
I'm new to that. Oh, go ahead, Georgie.
No, you go first. That's fine.
I'm definitely new to that. That is something that's come up, and I'm definitely looking to leverage that, especially on a lot of our event templates that are pretty much formatted, and they vary in types of information, but also running that through a CRM system or some other technology to where everything's, just generating through the system rather than you manually inputting. But I haven't quite gotten there yet with the templates using AI.
I've used ChatGPT, other systems like that, more for outreach templates, saying like, hey, input, and make it seem a little bit more personalized, more for following up, those type of things. But I haven't tried it yet, so unsure on this one. I've heard that ClickUp has more project management AI tools coming, which might be a little bit helpful if you're like me, and I typically use an Asana board and clone and go, but I think ClickUp has something similar coming that revolves around a little bit easier and automated.
Awesome. Well, it looks like some folks, ChatGPT is coming up in the chat. So yeah, if anybody else has anything, definitely drop that in there and share that with the rest of us. Amazing. Yep. Awesome. All right. Well, I think it's time for us to now move on to our next segment, which is Dear Goldcast.
Dear Goldcast, as the Field Marketing Manager, I am excited to share that we are gearing up for our first-time sponsorship at the upcoming Adobe Summit and have been tasked with developing and presenting a plan to leadership in the coming weeks. Being entrusted with the responsibility of planning and executing our booth presence, I am reaching out to you for your valuable insights and expertise. Given the challenge of working with a limited budget, I am keen on exploring innovative and cost-effective methods that will not only help us stand out in the crowded event space, but also drive meaningful engagement, book meetings for our on-site team, and generate quality leads. In your experience with participating at large-scale industry events, what strategies have proven effective for you in the past? More specifically, any tips on developing a process for booking meetings, promoting our presence at the event, and incorporate attention-grabbing elements during the show? Thank you in advance for your help. Sincerely, an eager marketer.
Okay, so I think this is something we can definitely all relate to. Adobe Summit is coming up in March in Las Vegas. Massive event. Like I think they get 10,000 plus attendees. We were kind of talking about this earlier, Georgie, right? How does somebody go in and make a big splash, but may not have the funds to do so, or kind of a small fish, big pond, and you have so many massive other booths and companies that are making a big brand presence. So like, how do you, make sure that you're still being able to show up? And I think this is a very common challenge that a lot of us face. So Tonya, I'm going to pass it over to you. Kind of what are your thoughts here? What some advice do you have?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced this in my career where you get a last minute big event and you haven't really outlined the budget or things like that. I mean, it's really starting with what's the objective of the event and why are you doing it? And what's the target audience, and then building a plan that is really going to help you kind of identify your sweet spots, right? Do you have partners at the show that you can also maximize and leverage? So whether you have your booth presence and you start there, what your demos are, you can work with your partners to do sort of like the little card with the booth where you go around the different booths and get stamps and get little gifts. That way expands your reach. Also, it also gives more of the awareness that you are bigger than just one little company because you have partners. People always want to do parties and evening events, and those are great. However, you sometimes invite everyone, but don't have the right people in the room based on their titles or what the buying power is. So really like honing in on very small, intimate dinners and that are really targeted toward key influencers and buyers and not big parties, especially if you really have limited budget. One of the things that I've really done well is trying to get a meeting room in the venue or very close by, and proactively, usually up to 4 weeks out, starting to work with your SDR and BDR teams to start pre-scheduling based on what's in your CRM system, to be able to start to like really identify that audience and invite them to learn more, a session, further the conversation, especially if they've attended that show, you've met them on another show or what have you. And that really works really effective. That's almost like the lowest cost, especially if you can really get bookings all day, every day, more than pay a party, because people are just going to come for your drinks and leave. But this one's more intentional. You can demo, you can talk about the partners, you can involve other people. And also if you have a customer there and you want to also use them as one of your customer success stories. So really just putting a lot of emphasis around intentional conversations and not just let's have a party. But again, if you have to do something, make sure it's a really, targeted dinner with your executives and the right leaders so that people walk away knowing really about your company and really feeling like they were, cared about and, valued, and the relationship is built from there. So.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And I think, thinking outside, you don't, put the investment, like you said, into the smaller, more focused, getting in front of the right people. And I'm, definitely an advocate of trying to book those meetings before you even get on site and just really utilizing that face-to-face time. Georgie, how about you? Any advice for our?
Yeah, so I heard a couple different questions in there. I heard something about cost efficient ways to stand out and engage. Question everybody always asks. You can keep asking that, always looking for more ways. Tips on developing a meeting booking platform. And then finally, promoting your presence at an event. So I'll answer in that order. I think cost efficient ways to stand out. I like to try to take a step back and think about what my key goals are at that event. If it's a big event and our goal is really more of a bulk lead capture motion, maybe taking a step back and thinking about spending money on a headshot station or a community lounge, or even doing a spot in a partner's booth rather than going all in on our own expensive booth, maybe an approach. Other things I like to do are sit back and think about how else can I make it easy for people to come into my booth, come wherever I am, and have a conversation. I remove traffic blocking obstacles like those big giant counters that we set swag on. Yeah. And I make sure that my staff knows that they're expected to stand around the edge of the booth. They're supposed to be smiling. They're supposed to be trying to talk to people. We've equipped them with conversation starters so they don't have to think of it all on their own. Mm-hmm. And then I try to create something visible and engaging that's happening in the booth. One of our most successful activations, I know people used to hear activations, but one of our most successful ones was a cheap $50 claw machine from Amazon with candy and like knickknacks in it. One of the girls on my team did that at a trade show, and it started so many incredible conversations, and it really helped us out at that event. There are other ways, using your flashy clothing, monitors with big traffic stopping stats. Those type of things always work well for me too. On the meeting booking front, I think most importantly, it is aligning with your sales friends. I like to make sure that we're aligned on who we're targeting at least 4 to 6 weeks out. I like to provide them incentives to push. Maybe if they book a meeting, there's a $50 gift card on the line. Maybe there's some other reason. Maybe it's a tips and tricks book for their industry, something that helps incentivize that meeting. And then I make the process as simple as possible using a tool like Calendly or Qualified, so they don't really have to do anything besides get someone to fill out a form. The most important part of our meeting process probably, though, is getting leadership involved and committed in that meeting booking plan. I ask them prior to the event here, we just did this the other day actually, I said, here are the meeting goals. Please sit down with me, go through these. Let's pause on these because I need your help to push these and to celebrate them. I'll give you the reports, I'll give you resources, but it's not going to work unless we're partnering on this together. So meeting booking, that's the number one thing to think about with me, is how to partner with sales on it. Okay, kind of long-winded here. Do you want me to answer my last one still or skip over it?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right. Promoting your presence at the event. I see a lot of different opportunities to do this that not necessarily everyone's taking advantage of. There are some cost-efficient ways that I think should be more bought into consistent processes. I see pre-event communities and apps that are barely used a lot of the time, but everybody that's going to this event is in the app. There's a way to message somebody. There's a way to post on the board, talk about what cool thing your company is doing, what prize you have, whatever it may be. And that's like basically free. So no one really does that. They do occasionally, but it could be used a lot more. And then there's also other opportunities, like Tonya mentioned earlier. One of our favorite things has been to partner with partners at the event, create a reason for people to go back and forth between those partner booths and pass leads there. Of course, a partner is going to want to do that. You're bringing traffic to them too. Super easy win for everybody, and it costs you nothing.
Yeah, I am definitely an advocate of the partner route as well. You know, doing those like passport games where, you're doing the raffle prize and you got to hit up all the partner booths. And I think it's a great way too, especially if you're a smaller company or if you're a startup or it's your first time at an event, to really kind of, join efforts with maybe another brand that has maybe a little bit more visibility and can get you that reach. And so doing those kind of collaborative efforts, I think, is a really smart way. And then to your point too, yes, Jamie also saying, super important to make sure that our teams are working together, making sure you're getting that executive buy-in, and, definitely making sure you're getting that support from sales and making sure that you're getting the right salespeople at the booth, to be there, who's going to be present. You can have the conversations, but also making sure that they understand the value of, reaching out beforehand and throughout the event and even afterwards. So with that, I think this is a great segue into our final segment, which is on collaborating with sales. Okay, ladies. So a few questions here. And I think, this is always a hot topic for a lot of our event marketers. We're always trying to figure out the best ways to make sure that we are engaged and collaborative, and that, sales and marketing are aligned on kind of our marketing efforts, and that we can get that full support from them for our events and, how they're following up with those leads afterwards. So, in terms of my first question here, I think, I know there's a lot of tools out there and different ways that you can go about collaborating with your sales team. But I'm curious to hear from you as far as what have you found to be the most effective tool or method for communicating with your sales team? Georgie, I'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I also want to hear from everybody that's attending. Like, I love more ideas. If you have one, put it in the chat. I want to read through them as we go. But for me, a little sneaky, but I found this to be the best way, is to communicate when possible through a sales leader I'll write out what I want them to say. I'll provide the resources. I'll provide the reports, but I just ask for 1 to 2 minutes on their team calls to say, here's what's happening, and then make the CTA extremely blunt. You need 5 meetings. You need to do this one thing. Here's where you click. Super short, sweet, comes from them. I find that I get a little bit more traction when it comes out of their mouths rather than mine. And then I also tend to see sales buying into things just a little bit more naturally because they've taken the time to understand what they're preaching to their team and incorporating it more and more into their initiatives. I also find that using consistent formats is extremely helpful here. Training the team that it's always going to be here, it's going to be in the set spot, and you know where to get it is super helpful as well.
Tonya, how about you? Any tips there?
Yeah, well, not that I'm pushing a specific product or anything, but certainly I've used prior to coming to Salesforce Slack, and definitely found that this is a great way to communicate with, whether it be specific to an event or sales, but really that's creating a channel that's targeted toward that event and all the resources are there. But going back to what Jordy said, definitely getting the leader to definitely be like an advocate for events and the programming and the things that we're doing. Because of course it helps everyone else to follow when they say, oh, our leader said we're going to do this, but definitely running contests and spiffs because everyone's competitive and especially sales, but being able to report out on that on Slack and say, oh, well, this person got this many calls or this person, the deal closed on this event. And people get very, very motivated on that. But I've definitely found that when we dump everything in for an event on Slack, it still lives there even through the year. So people can refer back to the conversations. And on an event, uploading the leads after at the end of the night so that people in the office can also start following up and vetting and going through. But ultimately, it's a great way for them to go, oh, if this person comes back through the booth, we know that they had a great conversation. They're a hot lead. We want to target them. We want to focus on them or invite them to the dinner. But I've definitely found that Slack was definitely the end all be all for us when I was definitely on the field marketing side, because it was one place for everything. People weren't going to Google Docs or folder, and they were looking at everything on their phone. So everything had to be bite-sized and easy for them to say yes, no, or great, or emoji, or whatever you got. And it was more responsive, and it was quicker for communication because it was more real time. So
yeah. And I think, again, I think honing in, right, just having that communication and just, it could be different for every organization, every team. So definitely, speaking with your sales leader and their teams and getting that feedback and finding out what is going to be the best channel for communicating this information. So, Slack may work for some, but maybe it's better just to actually get on a call and be a part of that sales meeting, right? So you just have that face-to-face time with them. Because Slack too, things get lost in messages, right? So I think it's also important just to make sure that you meet them where they're at and, using the channels that are going to be the most effective for them and knowing that they know where to go to find that information. So,
and to add to that, Belinda, I think it's also like, as an event marketer or a marketing person and you're dealing with sales is, you're participating, you're having one-on-ones with those regional salespeople and those leaders just to see, hey, is everything I'm doing meeting your needs? You're on their QBRs, you're talking about the wins and the lessons learned and things like that, so that they know that you are bringing value, you are showing results, because that's one thing they want is, well, this event, we love this event, but is it showing results? Because we want to do these events. So it's really being able to report back out, but also when they raise their hand for an event and you go, okay, we're going to do it, even though it's not a best fit, you want to be able to also report out and say, hey, this was not the ideal fit. We got some results, but let's move forward with this audience or this event. So they also need to be accountable for sometimes contributing to some events that don't work out, right? We've definitely had that. But I think it's just, being present in their meetings, adding value, and really just communication so that they know, hey, what's the status of this event, where are we at on the meetings and things like that. So it is a communication of just keeping it open and transparent.
Right. Now, Tonya, I'm going to keep the focus on you for a bit. Again, I know you work a lot with sales, especially with the specific type of events that you're running for them. So in what capacity are your teams working together? How are they supporting you? And then how do you ensure that even after the event is over, right, they're still continuing to follow up on the leads from those events that you're putting on for them?
Yeah, and this role is a little different because we don't really control all the content, but in prior roles, really it's just basically giving them an input to what we're doing at the show and why we're doing it. So it isn't just okay, this is my idea, because again, they are also part of the executor on the show. They are also actively involved in the show or the event, whatever it is. It could be a dinner, it could be a partner event. It doesn't matter what type of event, but also there's some ownership of them. We want, in some cases, there is no event person on site, right? So they are the one running the event. So really getting them, really walking through, this is the format, this is what we're going to do. Here's your audiences, here's all people. And so that when we go to close it out, who came and following up on them in, target, nurture plan A, and who didn't attend target plan B. And then people who are just like, oh, well, whatever, target C, but really having a nurture campaign, really having your SDR, BDR, whatever you call those business development people, really doing some of the follow-up on those lightweight type of leads, but being able to really target the hot leads and really following up on that. But everything is going into some kind of CRM system, some kind of call campaign, some kind of email campaign, or invitation to a future event. So it's definitely going to be a multi-channel kind of approach on the follow-up, but just making sure that every lead is accounted for in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Georgie, how about you guys? How are you working with sales?
Yeah, so it's definitely a very collaborative effort. And I think it always will continue to be. There's touch points before, during, after, way after, every time it comes to an event. I kind of think about it as events team will help provide resources. We'll create the experiences for them. We'll get them in front of the right people. But that one-on-one touch point that sales provides is what's really pivotal to getting a lead progressing for sure. So prior to the event, sales is on deck to help book those meetings, drive attendance. We'll give them resources to do that and incentives. Tonya mentioned a spiff earlier, works amazingly for this. So we'll set those expectations and we'll loop in the exec team so they have visibility and they're there with us, cheering them on as so-and-so's at the top of the spiff chart and they've got this great meeting on the calendar and we're all excited about it. And then post-event, we'll do typically a sync up with whoever's on site at the event. I want to know about your successes, like what went really well, what didn't go well. I want to hear about the hot conversations that people had so that I can flag those for follow-up and so that I can also sing those to managers praise years later and let them know that their rep did this amazing conversation, this great demo, whatever it may be, and that we want to watch that opportunity. So those are kind of the main ways that I do it. From there, we do the typical follow-up. Hot leads go to sales. We'll give them cadences, resources to start with. Warm leads go to the marketing nurture to warm up a little bit so we're not overflowing sales with the little less warm leads and they can prioritize the hot ones.
Now, there's actually a comment and a question here from David Solis I wanted to share, which is not something I personally have done myself, but curious to know if you guys have done this at all. So David says that I found having weekly open hours with my sales team to answer question helps. They need education on event basics. Have you seen this work? So I think this is a great idea. Be curious to know if anyone else has done something similar.
I haven't tried having open hours, but what my team typically does is we'll do a kickoff and we'll walk through the event details, and then we'll leave a good 15 minutes at the end to address conversations, questions, whatever may have, make it a little more collaborative. And then as we get closer to the event, about 2 weeks, week and a half out, we'll do another call like that. I want everyone on the call so that they can hear the key details, but then also ask those questions. And we try to make it a super open conversation. I know that a lot goes into events. It's fine if you have a question. We'll help you get it sorted. I'd rather you ask. But I like the idea of open hours, and I might add that to our calendar moving forward.
Yeah. Awesome suggestion, David. Awesome. All right, so I know we're coming to the end of our episode here. So just final thoughts real quickly from the both of you, just overall as we wrap up kind of this discussion around working with sales, just any tips for our listeners here and viewers here on just how to really kind of help continue to build a strong relationship between marketing and sales. Tonya, I'll start with you.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, just really, being part of their meetings or, having one-on-ones with them and really being part of the QBRs. You want to be an active listener. You definitely want to, contribute to their success, and coming with some great ideas. I'm always researching events, processes, unique things. When I see something like, oh, that's a great idea, and really just trying to come with a better arsenal, because not not every rep wants to go the checkbox mode. They want to always be outside the box and really having, building a relationship where they trust you. And so if you make a recommendation or you give advice on, the format or whether the pre-event planning, the on-site or the post-event, they trust you because they see you're getting results and you're bringing values for some of the other reps, but also really just ensuring that you are really following up on what's really working and what's really not, and being truthful about that, because events does spend a lot of money. We are events, areas where we sometimes just need to be simple, be focused, but really that's our job to make sure that we do that with more intention for the sales team to achieve their quota goals. So
yeah, I think that's some great advice, and I definitely agree with everything you said. Building relationships with your sales and go-to-market counterparts is extremely important and really helps get that event to the next level. I see anytime I've gotten buy-in early in the process from our sales counterparts, it really helps get things moving, simplifies things ahead of time, reduces the number of questions I'll get. I like to highlight success stories of, I worked with so-and-so last time on this. That person did an amazing job. We really get to know the people that are going to lean into events pretty quickly at an organization and the people that aren't. So lifting those people up, showing their success stories, talking about how they did this and how an events person may have helped them get there, has been really big for me as well. I like to communicate like crazy. I don't assume anybody knows anything at all. And I'll just tell them that. I'm like, you guys probably know this, but I'll say it all again, just in case, because I know a lot gets thrown at you. And then listening too, when you get feedback from a team member, pause, think about it. They have a different perspective than you do. And a lot of that can be incorporated into what you're doing. I already mentioned it earlier too, just taking time to shine my coworkers to their managers, or like a broad Slack channel after the event and said, so-and-so talked to this big customer. This person helped do this at the event. Little things that make people more excited to do the event, even if events aren't necessarily their thing, because they're getting that recognition across the company. And they know that it's impacting certain deals, and they're happy about that.
Great tips, guys. Thank you both. This was really awesome. Really appreciate, again, having you both here and taking the time to chat with us.